Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to our redox molecule animal webinar. It's Tuesday, May 28th, and my name is Beth Wofford. I'm a thoroughbred horse trainer from Lexington, Kentucky. We have a few housekeeping tips to go over before we start the bulk of the webinar. First, we ask that you please do not record these presentations. These webinars are recorded on your behalf and archived at the following website, www.animalwebinar.com. We have quite an extensive library that we've put together because these are all archived there and have been for the past couple of years. So we have quite a archived library. We encourage you please to share those freely with others, but just do not record this on your own. These webinars take place at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on the fourth Tuesday of each month, so you can mark your calendars accordingly. And finally, and the most important thing I can tell you is please understand that we do not make medical claims of any sort with our products. We are in no way suggesting that you do not call your vet or you ignore their advice should your animal need medical care. These molecules do not heal or cure anything, but simply help each and every living cell work the way they were designed, which enables the body to heal itself. But also keep in mind that these products are 100% safe and non-toxic, so feel free to use them in generous quantities with any of your four-legged friends. Tonight, I am going to be your guest, and I am going to take a stroll down memory lane because I'm going to share with you the very first few experiences that I had 9.5 years ago with animals in my care, my cat and my dog. Most of you know me as a horse trainer, and the story at the very end will be a current one that was not on my previous horse webinar, so I'll share that. But beforehand, we can look into a couple early stories. This is my buddy Gravy. He, again, this is 9.5 years ago when I first was introduced to the redox molecules. He was about 2 years old at the time, and he had a serious urinary tract problem that is pretty common with male cats. And he would have episodes that would be very painful. He would have trouble urinating, and it would be in a lot of pain. And it called for an emergency trip to the vet each time. He had 3 of these episodes before I was introduced to this technology. And they told me that he should be on medication for the rest of his life. Well, he was only 2 years old at the time, and the medication made him real dopey, and he didn't like it. I could tell he didn't like the way he felt when he was on it, and I just have a natural aversion to putting myself or my pets on any kind of long-term medication. But they warned me that these episodes would continue and probably get worse if I did not medicate him. Well, I thought, well, I'm just going to wait and see what happens. Well, then along came these wonderful molecules. And the next time I saw him start to go, his episode started where he was having issues. I immediately went and thought, what the heck? I will go ahead and try. I will give him some of these molecules. And then if he still is in pain, I'm not going to make him suffer for very long, but I will then take him to the vet. But why don't we give him a chance first? So I got a syringe, a 10 cc syringe, and I pulled some of the liquid molecules up in the syringe, and I just tucked him under one arm and supported his chin. And I just slipped the syringe in the side of his mouth and squirted it in his mouth. And he was perfectly fine about it. He didn't seem to mind. And within 10 minutes, it was almost miraculous. Usually the 3 times before this, he'd gotten progressively worse and was in real serious pain within about a half an hour to 45 minutes of me first noticing the issue. Within 10 minutes of administering the molecules, he curled up, went to sleep, and had no problems after that at all. Well, he became a regular user of the moleucles. He got that little 10 cc syringe every single day, and he never had another issue from that point on, which was miraculous. It really was remarkable. And that was quite a while ago, and Gravy's no longer with us, but I was so happy to be able to give him the quality of life that he deserved. Next is my little Moon. This is Moon Dog here, this little white dog in the middle. And I purposely chose this picture on the golf cart because when she was about the same, no, she was much older. She was probably 10 when I first found the moleucles. That's about right, about 10 years old. And when she was 2, this is our classic mode of transportation around our farm. And all the dogs just love the golf cart. And she's a terrier. So she was riding along the golf cart when she was about 2 years old, and she saw a squirrel and vaulted herself off the golf cart going, you know, when it was in motion. And she did a somersault and broke the ball of her femur, which is the top kind of her hip joint. Now, evidently that's not unusual for little dogs. And if I'd known then what I knew later when I found the moleucles, we probably would have just treated it with the moleucles. But instead, the vet said, no, she needs surgery. So they took out the top of her femur, the ball of her femur, and said, you know, the muscles of her hip are going to grow around that joint, and she's never going to have any problems, which in fact, it really was pretty miraculous. That's one of those things that is a modern medical miracle, I think, that they can do that. She seemed fine, but as she aged, you could tell that those joint issues were catching up with her. She was still fine and she was doing well, but she was about 10 years old when I found the moleucles, and I thought, you know, I'm going to go ahead and start giving, since it worked so well for Gravy, I'm going to start giving this to Moon. And I administered it exactly the same way. She was about the same size as Gravy. Gravy was a big old heavy cat, and Moon was about the same weight. And I pulled up about 10 cc's in a syringe every morning and would just squirt it in the side of her mouth. And she was absolutely remarkable. She was like a puppy again, very, very shortly. She never had a bit of trouble. She never had a bit of pain. She lived to the ripe old age of 17. She was, we just lost her about 1.5 years ago, and she had a wonderful life. It really made a major difference in her quality of life in the last half of her life, really, basically. So, what I would like to mention here is that this is not something that's going to keep a dog living forever, but the quality of life that it gives our animals is really absolutely remarkable. And that's what counts to me. As long as she was happy and healthy right up until it was time for her to go. So it was a great experience, and we will be forever grateful. Now, this is, those of you who might have seen my Facebook page know this story. We break and train young racehorses here on our farm in Kentucky, and it causes quite a bit of stress on a young horse. When horses ship into our farm, they are often very keyed up and very upset. This guy evidently had been through some stress before he got to me, because this is the way he showed up at our farm. These warts are very angry and bloody and sensitive to the touch. And we just felt horrible for him, poor guy. We nicknamed him Toad because look at his face. And I didn't feel like I could use I didn't want to use the gel, the molecule gel on him, because they were so sensitive to touch that I didn't want to rub it on his face. So I got the spray bottle out, and we know that the liquid molecules, you can spray it on and it will go in through the tissue topically. So I didn't know whether he was going to allow me to do this. This is a young yearling thoroughbred colt, and I didn't know if he was going to allow me to spray him. But what happened, which has happened many times in the time that I've been using the molecules in the barn, and I use the spray bottle quite a bit, they really seemed to love it. He got used to, he was a little bit put off by the sound, but as soon as he got used to the sound, and as soon as the molecules touched his face, he loved it. He would lean into me, and he obviously, it really, really felt good, and it really made his face feel a lot better. So every morning he is turned out all day. So he comes in every morning to train, and every morning I would just saturate his face. And he had it, what you can't see from here, he had it all down under his chin and all over the side. And I would just cover his whole face, just saturate it as soon as he came in. And then we would ride him. And as soon as we were finished, before we turned him back out, I would saturate him again. And he just loved it. So I thought, well, if nothing else, I'm giving him a wonderful, he feels good. And that was what was great. But however, this was about a week later. The natural course of progression with this kind of issue, which we see them, it's not uncommon in young horses that are stressed like this to come down with this virus. This is definitely a virus, and it's it usually takes months to clear up. Usually within at least a month before you really even see much difference. This was 1 week after we started spraying with the molecules. This was 10 days after the beginning. So this was only 3 days after that. And this is 2 weeks. In 2 weeks' time, he was no longer a toad, but we kept calling him that anyway. So this, we were forever grateful that we were able to give him this kind of relief from the suffering he was undergoing when he came. So that's a really quick synopsis of just some of the very, very first things that I ever found out about these molecules and what it could do for our four-legged friends, and my most current horse story. I apologize for how brief this is, but we really don't have to fill up the whole half an hour. And this might just be something that's a nice short synopsis that you can share with friends if you have people that have cats and dogs and horses that they would like to see how it has affected others. So I wish you all the best, and I hope you have a wonderful evening, and thank you so much for being here.